Hey guys, I'm here with the grand finals of Worlds 2020, Damwon versus Suning, and let's jump right into the draft here. So this is totally blind for me. I haven't watched the games at all. I'm going to take a look at the bans. So far Damwon's taken Camille off the table. Both top lane players are definitely Camille players. Bin's shown a lot of proficiency on it, as well as it being one of Naguri's more favored champions. TF. So sometimes we see TF bans, sometimes we don't. I think on the Korean side of the bracket, we saw more TF bans on purple side, so I'm not surprised to see it. Lucian also gets banned basically every purple side game. I find that in the first game of a best of 5, you see a lot more standard bans, pick ban phases. Mainly because you want to leave it flexible to adapt to the rest of the series. So usually ban more standardly in the first game before you find out what's giving you issues that day. Sidra seems like she shows up a lot more at very high levels of gameplay. Angel, I think, has had a lot of presence on Syndra. I've had my criticisms of the way Angel plays, but his Syndra performances are pretty strong, other than a couple maybe high pressure scenarios where maybe he doesn't make the most optimal plays. So Nidalee also not a super a band. It's also a band that we see pretty often, right? So as I say in all these VODs, right, at this World's meta, when you see a farming jungler off the table, the most standard first pick would be one of the farming junglers still up, right? But it doesn't have to be, and especially when the game gets to such a high level of competition like this one, stuff this tends to get a little less straightforward. But the first game in the series can often be straightforward regardless, just because people are going to be testing the waters. The most, I think, least standard ban in this pick ban is going to probably be the Jhin one. I would say. So Jhin had a lot of priority in the Damwon versus G2 series, but we can imagine why, considering that G2 and Damwon play very proactively. Jin's a very good follow-up hero, and I think a big part of it was getting perks off of comfort picks. It's hard to say exactly how their scrims went down. I know that was something Cloud Templar was talking about, but from my perspective, it seemed like a lot of perks denial, trying to take the Ashe and Jhin away to give him less agency on the AD carry role. But that priority seems to have bled over into this Damwon versus Suning game, where obviously Ghost is a super good Jhin player, and Huanfeng's ability to hit those Jhin ults was honestly shocking. He's super good at it. But let's see what the first pick is. Sorry, we don't need sound on. So this is pretty standard, right? We see the Graves first pick here. In the first game of the series, we expect something more standard. So first pick jungler, pretty standard, right? There's still so much in the air that can be retaliated with. We have to now assume that Kindred is something that Suning is looking at, because Kindred is the natural Graves counter, at least at this World's meta. And let's see what they go for. So Ezreal, super flexible. I have my questions about the strength of the hero, but the results have been undeniable in the later stages of this tournament. Very flexible hero. Can poke, can follow up plays, can play very defensively. Just super flexible. I think his biggest weaknesses are the fact that he's scaling, and the fact that maybe he doesn't have the highest DPS outputs at all points in the game. Maybe sometimes can be a little weak at taking care of tanks. Leona, however, locks in the style Suning wants to play much harder. Leona is, for the most part, just an initiate hero, and has had a really high success rate at Worlds this year. I definitely had my eyes on her as a pick coming into Worlds. I thought that she was a super undervalued hero, and the way the games have played out, it's definitely feeling that way. So she's going to give bot a little more priority, a little some ability for the support to make some early game plays. While doing so, Ezreal will have the ability to play safely, and she'll also Ezreal's not a very strong laner, but having Leona there will threaten the lane phase a little more, so Damwon can't just play something super disrespectful bottom, even though there's a blind Ezreal, because a lot of options open up once you see Ezreal. And now Damwon can also start to choose a little bit of what they want to do. They can play some counters to Leona if they want. I think before we go any farther, I should talk about some of my expectations for the series. Both teams are fantastic. I've really enjoyed Worlds. I'm happy with whoever wins. But to me, Damwon, and I was asked about this at the end of my last stream, but Damwon to me seems like the much better rounded team. And my prediction for this series is actually a 3-1 in Damwon's favor. I think Damwon is able to play multiple styles of League of Legends this patch. I think they've had the most clean drafting I've seen. Not that that really actually impacts too greatly who's going to end up winning the series. But I think Suning's also a really great team, and they play with a lot of heart, right? So I think they will end up picking up the game at least because they'll overperform and just really play to win. I've been very impressed with them in that regard. But I want to relate this back to the draft a little more. Suning definitely looked the best when they're playing heavy initiate or a lot of counter initiation with their own initiate style of comps, which is great because you want something. If you're a really strong team, you want to be able to play proactive styles. But Damwon is able to play more modes of League of Legends, and I think they've also learned a lot from having DRX as their main best of 5 partner, because DRX also plays a lot of more reactionary anti-initiate comps with like the Kindred. And Damwon has definitely learned from that, where Damwon can play a more flexible style of League of Legends. So if I was a coach prepping for the series, I would definitely at least attempt letting Suning play a very proactive, engage-heavy comp, and Damwon to play one of their more reactive comps with maybe the Kindred or the Graves as they already have picked, and counter that way. But we'll see how the actual draft plays out. Ori very flexible. If you've watched my VODs, you'll know that I talk about it all the time. I think Ori and Ornn is one of the most straightforward and strongest combos in League of Legends, in the sense that Ori can rush a second item Ornn death cap and get an immediate huge item power spike. So Damwon can right now pivot their comp either very defensively or very offensively, right? They can play much more reactively with Ornn peeling, Ori playing with the ball range, Graves playing at the tempo he likes to play, more reactively, people playing into him, or they can have something to follow up and pick something that'll follow up initiations with Ornn, maybe something that Ori can place her ball on to be initiates, and then Graves will be more of an alt bot with lethality. These are both modes that Damwon's comp can play, right? Those are 3 very uninteresting, very flexible picks that we would expect in the first game of a high-level best of 5. And now Suning is probably going to look at their mid pick, but there's still options. There's a lot of ways this draft can go. The natural pick here would be Azir, as Worlds has been playing out. I cannot say I agree. I think Azir by far is best as a counter initiator. I think Azir as a hero is best when he isn't fighting stuff that plays out of his range and he's just playing against hard to initiate. If Azir was to be drafted here, I would recommend Damwon to just play a longer ranged, more reactionary comp, which I believe they could still pivot into, maybe with a Jace pick. So I would not recommend Azir here, but people do like playing it as something that can sort of hold its own versus Orianna and play against her range. And there's the Azir. I don't know if this is weird, but I do this thing where when I'm checking if my coffee is still too hot, I just dip my finger in it. I don't know if that's weird, but it's still too hot, I will tell you guys. That's just something I do. It's also not really coffee. It's really more just, I'm being told my chat did not like that one. I also want to be honest with you guys. I don't want to lie to my viewers. It's really just milk with coffee. It's not really coffee with milk, you know? It's like 60% milk. Anywho. We see a Thresh ban. I think we see a lot of second rotation Thresh bans. Thresh, definitely one of the heroes that I think is strongest from a drafting perspective. Can play at a lot of modes. Very strong sieger, can follow up plays, can also play very reactively and counter initiates. So far I'm already very happy with the way Damwon's drafted. I think they have a very flexible comp, whereas Suning, there's basically no synergy between Leona and Azir. Azir hates following things up. I've had some examples of that sort of play in some of my other videos. But Azir's very bad at following up plays. The one benefit of Azir here is right now he's fighting a lot of reactive mid-range heroes that don't play out of his range and he'll be able to deal with. But I would highly recommend a Jace ban out of Suning at this point. Unless they have a good counter pick lined up, because they are red side and do get the last pick. But I'm mainly scared of being outranged here with Jace, and there's some long-ranged bot lane champions as well. You know, and if maybe at this, maybe if at top level League of Legends, if Azir is the only way to beat Ori, maybe Ori just needs a ban, maybe she needs higher priority. It's hard to say, right? Because the game looks very different when it's the two finalist teams of the year against each other, right? Like it'll look so much different that draft from like two teams in groups fighting. Anywho, we see a Jarvan ban. S of M's looked really good on the Jarvan. That would be just like a straight hard initiator. I don't think there's any. So there's nothing currently in Damwon's comp that would be scared of hard initiation. Actually, everything Damwon has picked so far is really good against hard initiation. But if they want to pivot to more of a farther range comp with less anti-initiate and more poke, then Jarvan becomes very scary. And I actually would say that's a little bit of a tell out of Damwon banning Jarvan, because it implies they'd like to play more of those heroes that are play out of Azir's range. So Caitlyn can definitely achieve that. Caitlyn does get taken off the table. And the last ban, can be another hard initiator. Leona's already off the table, so not necessary. You can also ban the Kindred if you think Suning is just going to hard pivot, have Leona play more backline. But maybe we're just worried about being outscaled with Gangplank as the final counter pick. Gangplank would play at the tempo nicely here, is really good into everything Damwon's picked for the most part. Not the best 1-3-1er in a side lane against Ori, but we have a lot of more mid-ranged reactive picks out of Damwon, which means Gangplank can safely scale and actually land combos onto them. Of course, Gangplank isn't that good against like a poke style comp, so like if it was the Jace Damwon was looking at, then Gangplank seems like less of a priority ban. I will say though that if Gangplank was picked, that would be an extremely slow comp out of Suning, and I would find that would be very hard to win the game with. But let's see what Suning actually are looking at here, what they're interested in picking. Shen. Okay, so Shen can match 1-3-1s, can kind of split and then back up his laners, but also just provide hard initiate if he drops on top of Leona. Very interesting. Okay, doesn't look like Sivir here. Sivir does not look good, I don't think. Not that it's really been played this year. I'm just saying that because it's being hovered. Ashe, this is a very common lineup we've seen out of Korea. You choose, right? Ashe also flexible. Damwon's comp just super flexible all around. A lot of champions that they're really comfortable on. Ornn also allows Ashe to scale a little better than she usually does because she gets the Ornn upgraded item. Because Ashe will provide some nice early game support and non-committal initiation, right? Because her ult just throws an arrow forward. It doesn't actually require any bodies going forward. So it feels very good in this comp, but she'll also be able to scale a little better because of the Ornn ult. And at this point, I would definitely recommend a support that plays at a similar tempo, where he doesn't need to hard initiate, and they totally disagree and go Panth. Panth has to really just jump right the hell in, probably get balled by Ori. Doesn't feel necessary, but they want to match some of Shen and Leona's presence in the early game. I probably wouldn't have drafted it though. It seems unnecessary. Damwon's pretty locked into a reactive comp where their initiation tools of Ornn and Ashe are low commitment, right? They can just be followed up by Graves walking up slowly, Ori walking up slowly and just casting spells using auto attacks. So I would need a champion list to think of a really good, something that I would think of as a good support here. Maybe even an enchanter looks good, but that'd probably be slow paced. I'd prefer faster pace out of the bot lane. There might just not be any heroes that play fast enough in the early game left up that plays nicely, that has good synergy with Damwon's comp, which is possible. Thresh would have been excellent, but he's obviously down. Nautilus would be perfect here, but I honestly think Nautilus's base stats are just too low this patch. He's just not good, but like stylistically, he would be really great here. And then the last pick is Wukong. So definitely something we've seen come out of Suning before. And they're swapping that Shen as a flex pick into the jungle role. So Suning's comp has ended up being a lot more initiate heavy, but once again, Azir is playing at the wrong tempo. He's going to just be scaling, probably going to be looking to collect side lane farm. If I was the coach, I'd be telling Azir to play the mid game as primarily a side laner, trying to farm up to item spikes, because he's not going to play with the rest of the 5v5 out of Suning very well. Everyone on Suning can really get in there, really jump into the fight and initiate hard, except Azir. He's going to have a very awkward time following up. He's going to want to more just scale up and get strong because he's a scaling hero, not because he has any innate synergy with the team composition. So overall, I like this style of comp that Damwon's picked. It's reactive. So as I talked about midway through the draft, I said if I was prepping for the series, Suning likes to pick a lot of initiate, and as I said, I think Damwon can play very flexibly in how they play League of Legends. They have a lot of win conditions in the draft, and yeah, Damwon has picked a much more reactive comp, more anti-initiate. Graves is going to feel really good here. He's going to get to auto people down easily. Ornn's just going to be peeling. Pantheon's going to have to be less proactive. He's gonna look to peel a little more when he's team fighting. Otherwise, he'll be looking for picks. And it's really easy for Damwon to walk up and initiate with Ash Arrow or an ult and not overcommit. Because if they overcommit, then it's really easy to allow Wukong to have access into the backline if he's not being peeled. I also saw Suning navigate comps like this, where there's a lot of ways to peel Suning off. Very well when they're fighting top esports in the semifinals. So I know that they're very talented at navigating the style of comp. Suning's going to want to make things scrappier, try and pull Damwon apart, not let Damwon ball up at all, right? Suning's going to want to try and pull pressure, pull their attention during team fights when fighting around drag, something that we've visually seen them able to do if you watch my review of Suning versus top esports. And TP flanks are can potentially be very devastating if Damwon is disjointed in where they're standing, right? Because Damwon's just going to want to ball up and hopefully not get Wukong ulted too badly. But if they play together enough, it really even shouldn't be too scary because they have enough crowd control threats to take Wukong down in time. So yeah, definitely I give this draft to Damwon. They have prio middle and bottom. Graves will have a really nice farm lead over the Shen jungle, and it's going to be harder for Suning to navigate those team fights looking for backline picks and trying to pull Damwon apart from each other. But this is, and I guess we can say that that's something Suning's really good at, and Damwon staying together and playing solidly, something they're really good at. So both teams are playing at a tempo they're comfortable at. I'm mainly not happy with the Azir pick, but it might have been really the only option at this point. So let's get into the actual game. And hey guys, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on these videos, so if you're enjoying the content, please feel free to like the video and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. But let's jump into this game. So, got a pretty standard starting here. I'm going to dip my finger back into my coffee. It's a little hot. Let's try and take a sip. I'm going to run it. That's good. We're good. We're good, guys. All right. If you're still watching Mira, let me know. Let me know if it's annoying with the caster game sound on, because I usually turn it on just so we can hear like champs and stuff, and for my own purposes. So I think at these the later stages of the tournament, people are 1v or level 1ing a lot less, having a lot less level 1 fights, because you really don't want to lose worlds because you had a poor level 1, right? And sometimes it's hard to judge exactly whose level 1's better, especially when it's more even, right? Like, Ashy's very good level 1, Ezreal's also very good, you know? So SFM has been in questionable spots as Shen Jungle, not through his own fault, just because Shen Jungle jungles very slowly. And then SFM's been able to very creatively recover and even come out with advantages. So even though Graves is going to farm much more quickly than Shen, I have the utmost faith in SFM to be efficient and effective. So right now they're like about even, but of course SFM got the leash bot side, whereas Canyon started top side and didn't get like a bot lane leash. So the way Damwon's been playing this tournament, that's a really early roam. Wasn't even paying attention. But as we know, as we should expect, Ashy will give much more prio to bot lane. What I want to say here. So through this tournament, and even before this tournament, Damwon has mainly played towards top side, but they drafted Ornn very early in this draft, so you know, Graves can be more flexible in how he wants to play out these lanes. Similarly, Suning has also been a little bit more topside oriented, but of course Suning can also just kind of farm up with Gangplank comps if they need to, and Bin's a super good Gangplank, probably the most impressive Gangplank in this tournament. Because really, like, the main metric of if you're good at Gangplank, everyone does well in the lane phase. It's a totally unimpressive thing to do, but Bin is very good at hitting those barrel combos. So it's just it's a total map split. Not like, sorry, I shouldn't call it map split. That's not correct at all. Both junglers literally just hard clear the whole jungle, do scuttle, super uninteresting. I actually think SFM cleared faster than I thought he would too. I might have underestimated Shen's first rotation jungle clear. Seems like most people do it much more slowly. Of course, he did require a bot lane leash though, but still, it seemed efficient. So I think this is an expected first game so far. Everyone's doing very standard things, very uninteresting. Both drafts are playing to ways that the teams wanted to play, and a lot of comfort picks, right? The pick ban, pretty standard feeling. And this early game so far, no level 1 invades, both junglers just full cleared, right? I think game 1, especially at finals, you kind of just test the water. Showmaker doing really well in this 1v1, so we expect Ori to win, but we don't expect her to win this hard. Showmaker, one of my favorite players, just super talented. He's doing a really good job. We also expect Ornn to beat Wukong, so that's not super unexpected as well. And we also expect that Ashy will have a little bit more bot prio, and we know that Ori will have mid prio, so Dragon is going over to Damwon. As I said, I'm feeling solid about Damwon's draft. I think they definitely won the draft, and in general, I probably think they win the series. I just think they've looked so solid through this whole Worlds. Damwon is a team that just they had hiccups, right, in their history, and I don't want to say they choked, right, but like they're a team that everyone has known for years that Damwon is just a very strong team, and sometimes it's hard for them to perform at those expectations. But with time, they've gotten better at it, right? Because ideally, when you aren't a North American League of Legends team, you improve over time, right? Ideally, that's in a good esport, an esport that like feels fun to watch and play. Hopefully, everyone, hopefully, like you actually get better as you keep working together and improving. And Damwon has grown into their expectations really nicely. And they're just looking so solid this Worlds. Really, really nice drafts, very flexible drafts, and knowing how to play their comps, even when stylistically the comps can differ heavily. And just a lot of really talented, impressive players. Not a single weak member. Like for example, in the G2 Damwon series, I gotta tell you, I don't think anyone on G2 dropped the ball, you know? It really just feels like Damwon was stronger, and I really wanted G2 to win, just for fun. I was just cheering for them, but I don't even, I thought maybe, like, Jankos would underperform or something, but that's not even what happened. Like, no one on G2 played particularly poorly, right? Damwon was just a better rounded team, and that's great to see. That's just, that's just good League of Legends.
The CS difference between Huanfeng and Ghost is already at 15, with some minions pushing towards Ghost and Beryl for the first time, it feels like, in 7 minutes. Huanfeng and Sword Art, they're able to get past that first barrier.
Alright, so slow-paced game, which is what Damwon wants, right? Suning has the proactive tools. It's going to be hard for Damwon to be proactive. Graves, so much more effective as a counter ganker. Plus, he's going to be happy just hard farming. Damwon's going to feel really good in the later stages of the game. Even when Azir gets scaled up, he doesn't play he won't follow up initiates very well, right? So he won't be able to be as strong as maybe you're used to seeing Azir's be. And Ezreal isn't going to be able to just straight cleave down Ornn or even Graves, just because they can get pretty tanky, especially Graves with those grit stacks. Whereas Damwon have a lot that they're playing for. They're waiting for these Ornn items. The moment that Ori gets that death cap, Damwon will immediately be able to make plays. So yeah, Suning is gonna want to try and find initiation opportunities in the early game and hopefully have Azir somewhere away from the fights, but also drawing a member to match him. Just so Azir can scale up safely and not be forced to match the tempo of his other 4 teammates. Right now though, Canyon playing Graves as I'd ideally like Graves to be played, just taking all the objectives if possible, and Damwon just have full priority across the map. SFM isn't even really ganking top at this moment. And of course, like, the annoying thing about ganking Ornn is that even if you get gold onto Wukong, which is great, and definitely a potential win condition, you're only putting Ornn behind, which sucks, right? Because putting Ornn behind does nothing.
And so I imagine that what they're going to do is try and look for a window where Jeremy will have the push in mid. He's been actually able to go back to base just now, and he's going to grab himself both the tier and the Lost Chapter.
Next Dragon coming up in 35 seconds. So when you're playing a comp that's more early game focused, you want to try and win off of getting 4 dragons, and that's like a very consistent win condition when you're playing an early game comp. So Suning might be worried about this second dragon here. I would probably recommend them not to contest it though. Their item spikes are going to look a little better around this third dragon. Ezreal pretty weak when he gets this first spike. Okay, so here's the expected gank, right? We knew SFM was going to come top eventually. Try and get some gold onto Wukong. Naguri is just doing a really excellent job in this lane. Bin saves the second portion of his ult so that he can break the Ornn ult, and they do eventually get Naguri. Naguri also not like... He doesn't play the safest around ganks, you know? Of top laners, he is willing to die to fight you to the death. And that's just the sort of player he is, and it's a sort of player that I can respect. So they did get Ornn down. Unfortunately, the kill goes on to Shen. It would be much better served on Wukong. Suning has already won a game versus top where they were in a poor position, but they got gold onto Wukong. Not in a poor position, I should say, but their main win condition was to get gold onto Wukong and to have Wukong look for flanks, look for the backline, pull the comp in different directions so that the backline is open, right? And they just put gold onto Wukong and Bin was able to do his thing. Actually, Suning might have lost that game. I don't remember now. You get the point.
use his second proc of the ultimate, and then I like this use of the W from
Probably didn't need to flash there. Ornn does do a lot of damage though.
that would get that lethal.
I mean, maybe he should flash and they just leave the kill for him at that point. I don't know.
Until the Infernal Drake spawns, and we are playing for the Infernal Soul now. And as you pointed out,
I don't know what happened, but at some point Showmaker and Naguri swapped lanes here. I guess when Naguri was walking back, Showmaker went to catch top. Now they're gonna swap back again as Showmaker backs.
then you throw down at Drake 3, and if not, you absolutely have to do it at Drake 4. So 3 minutes time. We'll
How similar is this comp to the one Suning drafted before? Because this looks very similar.
Also doing what they're supposed to do. Patient play, respecting their
Like, is this the exact same comp they drafted? I don't even remember. I feel like it might be.
where their priority is and where they should be getting advantages. The best thing that Suning could do in this position is trade.
Honestly, both teams are just on a comp they're very familiar and comfortable with, and will be aware of the win conditions.
Which they could put themselves at a bigger disadvantage. And the thing about Damwon is they're the type
So right now we have 3 minutes for Suning to get items to maybe be able to contest this third dragon, because you don't want to be on soul point, right? Once you're on soul point, even if you start winning, you always run the risk of a 50-50 dragon smite fight and losing the game because your opponent gets soul.
in the top lane. So Ben is now up around 20 CS.
So that Herald was probably timing out. I'd have to imagine you usually want to use Herald around dragon.
Cyclone chucked out here defensively from Ben. Then Call of the
Ooh, they're once again been using the second ult to stop Call of the Forge God.
Nuguri's already
And SFM TP's in to stop Canyon from just taking down Bin. And of course Bin doesn't have flash there and Canyon does.
a lot of damage to Ben.
We can of course see that Noguri was quite confident making that play, but
So although SFM able to keep Bin alive, for the most part, because Shen is going to get outfarmed and in a way outscaled by Graves. Well, I mean, I should just say outscaled based on the way Graves plays, how strong Graves plays into the other team's comp. Even though SFM saves Bin, really Suning is going to want to be the aggressor's top lane. And now, since I was talking through that, let's go back and see how this plays out. Okay, so whoops, I accidentally muted. So there's an arrow thrown out, and Sword Art does a counter initiate onto Barrel. Pantheon is not as good as a laner as you sometimes might expect. Naguri TP's in, they end up getting Sword Art, and then Naguri just walks up and throws some autos. Not interesting, nothing really to talk about there. So Bin is going to get free time on this top turret, which is good for Suning's causes. And this is actually a pre-Dragon TP, right? This kill doesn't even really help set up for Dragon at all. It's really just going to mean Ornn doesn't have ult. So this is actually somewhat of a window that Suning has opened up. Later in the game, they're going to have a little bit of a TP advantage. And even right now, it's going to allow Wukong to safely back for his Triforce and set up for Dragon early because no one counter-shoved in top on Damwon.
Needed to be to interrupt it, and there we go. Thank you to the observers for catching it.
yeah, so that's what we were talking about. And to pull it off.
1 minute.
This is pretty good, right? So this third dragon, as I said, is probably when Suning is going to be on some better items. Azir now has the not Fiendish Codex, the, I don't know, whatever the hell the mana one's called, and the Nashers, which is his first big item. Ezreal, probably going the Gauntlet build this game, but I wouldn't recommend it. I probably would recommend the Triforce build 100% because he's contesting a mid-range team and he's gonna want to just try and beat them up as fast as possible. There's not a lot of consistent physical damage on him. The scariest thing's probably Ori on him, which he can't even itemize against unless he goes like Hex Drinker. But it does look like he's going the Glacial build. And Suning is actually just playing for the Rift right now, which they could, if they're fast, use middle and still try and contest Dragon. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but I would be very scared of putting this game on Infernal Point if I was them. They are throwing it middle, it looks like. No? They didn't. I mean, they were late, so they definitely shouldn't have used a middle. That would have been incorrect, but that was a very strange trade. I think if Suning wants to win this game, they had to use this Wukong item spike where he just got the Triforce, try and have Wukong look for something in the backline, look for the Ori, look for the Ashe. I'm not saying it's easy or even like there's not like a straightforward way to play it, right? It would basically have to be like an outplay for Suning to pull apart Damwon's comp and to find backline access, but they have done it before. So Min stays around bottom. He's now looking for the kills here. It's kind of getting turned, unfortunately. That is rough. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that Suning does that usually works isn't really working on Damwon. Damwon, understanding that their comp is pretty strong at getting initiated on, but unfortunately, I actually get picked up at the end there, so that'll help Suning's causes for sure. So Suning is getting a pretty decent gold lead here. Of course, I don't think that this gold lead... I have no idea. By the way, I have no idea who wins this first game. I literally have no idea what the... I have no idea what the outcome of the series is. I only have some feelings based on how high the post-game thread was on Reddit. That's really my only... my only hint. I think it would be higher if one of these two teams won. But other than that, I haven't looked at any spoilers. Yeah, Sword Art just catches Damwon before he E's there. I love Sword Art, by the way. So happy that the former Flash Wolves members found success. They're incredibly talented, and I'm glad that they aren't restricted to a lower player base region. So used the Ashe arrow there, didn't quite get anything.
He's putting a lot of damage down, but yeah, Wanfeng escaped the ultimate commitment from Showmaker, and as we get into 20 minutes, it is a 3,000, 2,000 gold lead rather for Suning. They are down 3 dragons, and it's 2.5 minutes, so they...
So, I should point out that we have seen a lot of games of Worlds, especially with Suning, where there's been 3 dragons taken, and then the team loses anyways, because enough of a gold advantage was created not contesting dragons. And Suning does have a decent gold advantage, but I really don't think it's enough, and I do think it would be... I do think Damwon is hard in the driver's seat to win this game so far. Damwon can keep playing it slow. If they don't think they can win the next dragon fight, there's no rush. It would literally be Suning's first dragon. They can even just have Canyon try and go in and just like smite fights, flip it, right? Like, if that's what they feel like doing.
I don't think they're going to be able to take this tower yet, though. The last stick going to come.
Yeah, that rift was not helpful. So 130 until the next dragon. Angel in the side lane. As I said before, I would keep him as far away as possible. They want to play through Bin. The gold is on Bin. And Angel has trouble following up everything his team does. If he can stay cross-map with TP and just farm up and become scaling Azir, I think that would be ideal. Keep him as far away as possible, right? Like, he should be top, Bin should be bottom. And maybe Bin wants to look for TP flanks, because that also might be one of the only real win conditions. Canyon going the Black Cleaver build on Graves. Looks solid here. There's scaling options for his team. Graves being tanky also seems reasonable this game. Looks good. I mean, I think Graves can even go the Death Dance build, and it would be really good this game, but I don't know if anyone does it anymore. So I think last time when Suning was behind and they had a really good team fight with Wukong, it was the 2-item Triforce Death Stance, which is really like a big spike for Wukong. But he's not going to have it before this Infernal. And it is interesting to think about, right? Just a little more gold, sort of, right? And I don't know, maybe there's a world where, right, like SFM gets a little less kills, and then Bin has the death stance here, and this fight that instantly is much more scary for Damwon. Maybe so scary that I would even recommend Damwon not to fight this. And also, there's an interesting adaptation that I see Angels made that I haven't seen in a long time. I don't remember which team it was. It might have been Suning again. I don't remember. But someone went to an important dragon fight as Azir, and they had an incomplete second item because Azir's first item is the... I really don't know what it's called. The mana book. It builds into Ludens. But that caused Azir not to have his third item for the crucial fight. And instead, Angel has just completed a second item Ludens, which you basically never see, but it'll give him an immediate team fight spike right now, and that actually might be what Suning needs. I think that's a very interesting adaptation. It's worth scaling for sure, but I think things are looking desperate. Suning is doing exactly what I told them to, exactly what we've seen them do in the past, right? Damwon balled up together. This is very top versus Suning, right? Damwon is balled together, as they should be. Peeling for each other, walking up slowly, using their less committal initiate ults in the Ashe and the Ornn. We're Suning trying to pull Damwon apart. Some initiates coming in from the side with Sword Art and Angel. Dragon being started by Huanfeng and SFM, while Bin lurks around the edges. Of course, being the most terrifying member to be able to initiate here. Very interesting. And we've seen Suning be able to pull this off before. I love the way these teams play. Everyone is so in tune with the strategies that they need to play to win. I love it. So Beryl, acting more proactively, instead of waiting for Bin to show up, jumps onto him, and Bin actually ults to kill Beryl. So this is very cool, because this is going to create a 4v5, but Bin doesn't have ult, which is basically the most important spell on Suning in this situation. That's both ults out of Bin. They just peel back. He doesn't even get Beryl. So obviously from this pause, it should just be a straight Damwon win, I think. I had issues with Karsa. Karsa in a similar spot as Graves went too hard on the dragon. I think he needed to peel back. Canyon looks like he's doing something where I would make a similar criticism, but I think Damwon is in such a good spot that it won't matter. Where Canyon really has full reign to stop the dragon if he wants. It doesn't even matter because SFM TPs onto his teammate. So they can just reset the dragon, and now Damwon can just walk at their opponents. There's no one really pressuring Ghost or Showmaker. So the most catastrophic things that could happen right now are if Damwon overcommit forward and just run into the Azir blender, but Azir really isn't strong enough at this point in the game, and Ornn will be near unkillable for him. Really well played out of Damwon. Beryl basically saying, it's cool if I die as long as I scout and pressure off Wukong is... There's like this thing in UFC when someone's really a really smart fighter, they call it fight IQ. Beryl, really high fight IQ there. So Suning, not willing to give this game up, you know. As I said before, they play with a lot of heart. Azir is looking good in the spot. Azir can play against the range and just beat them up. It's unfortunately a 4v5 though, and Azir's backup is hard initiators. So SFM and Sword Art need to be on the same page if they go in, but they will get blown up very quickly by Damwon's comp. Angel needs to try and put out as much DPS as he can. He's playing it correctly. I just don't know if it's winnable. Ooh, he plays for an ult. I didn't actually expect this. I didn't think he would play like this. I don't know if it works. The spot looks very interesting, though. Just on this pause, this looks very interesting. Ghost still retaining the flash, but it looks like Angel will get something. I don't think this connects Canyon. It probably has to connect Canyon for this to work, though. Oh, it hits him. It hits him. Okay, Canyon walks forward. Johnny is right after it. Such a blender of damage coming out of Ashe, though. That was I'm pretty sure that was I'm liking it. Didn't work, but I like the play out of Angel. I'm pretty sure that was a higher chance of working than if he just DPS'd with his soldiers. Nice attempt. It's a bad spot and he tried his best. Now Bin coming in, kind of just killing himself, but as we can see, Suning understand how important it was not to let Damwon have this infernal soul right now. And you just have to kill yourself, right? Like, you have to just go in and just die. If you, this soul will decide the game. So, it might look silly that Bin just runs and dies, but that's what it's got to be. I don't know. It's like, this is like a big thing to me just because like I see people get flamed for this all the time, but like sometimes people make really like dumb looking plays, but if it's a really desperate scenario, I prefer that you at least tried, and I don't know, it's just like a gripe I have with the overall League community. I've seen like even teams that you don't expect me to be directing this comment at. Like I've seen 100 Thieves make like 10% plays. Like, and I'm using 100 Thieves as my example because no one plays more slow or boring than them. But like I've seen them make 10% plays where it's like, yeah, we 100% lose the game if we don't just like try contesting this Baron, and then they all get wiped and then like everyone flames them. But like it's not fair, Like even like slow lower level teams go for plays like that, and you just got to try something when you're in a bad spot, right? Anywho, Suning's still playing up. This whole game they've been playing with Bin away from the fights instead of Angel, right? So right now, Baron is the next big objective. Once again, I would prefer Angel play away from the fights because Bin has more gold and he's just stronger at this point in the game. And of course, as I said, Azir doesn't play at the tempo that the rest of his team plays at. But yeah, what an unbelievably cleanly played game out of Damwon so far. I think if Suning is going to attempt this comp again, they need to orchestrate a scenario where Damwon is more mismatched in how their champions play. Frontliners that have to engage harder and therefore leave the backline more open to Wukong. And if they're not fighting comp like that, Damwon just plays it too cleanly. I think it's too tough. And really, Suning's best at these style of comps. And I don't think they've shown that they can match Damwon's level at like more scaling, more reactive comps. So they're gonna have to come up with something. No one thought Damwon beating Damwon would be easy, but what a cool story it would be if Suning won, right? And Suning doesn't give up. Beryl actually ults in there, thinks it's going to be a harder initiate. It's pretty good. Got Pantheon ult out. Not sure how much they can do with it though. Pantheon was basically, he didn't even really have to, but I think the Pantheon draft was basically just to help transition the early game. Because Pantheon doesn't have much to do in team fights, right? Just suiciding to look for Bin is like, that's as good as it gets.
Pretty comfortable. Just play this at their pace. They've been very calculated. I said many minutes ago, they're like one step ahead into the northern quadrant, and once they've set up some vision, then can make some plays for Baron.
I swear, it kind of just feels like SFM goes Knight's Vow, Spirit Visage every game. Like, it doesn't really matter who he's playing. He just like, he doesn't really main heroes, he mains a build, So if Bin wanted... Oh, wow. That was beautifully played. So Bin could have looked for the ult to cancel Naguri's Ornn ult again, but this was incredibly played. So if he doesn't look for the ult, he can maybe look for like an E and then ult into Naguri, but instead he jukes it with his W. He has like a good read on where he thinks Naguri's throwing it, right? And then he waits for Naguri's E, and Bin E's himself to get away. Beautifully played. As literally as well played as this can be. Hopefully they at least get Canyon off of it. Yeah, that was beautifully played. So even though this is like a spot where Suning's actually winning, pay attention, right? Like SFM can't go, like is having trouble going in. Watch like Angel's difficulty getting into this fight compared to his opponents. And I'm just saying this preemptively, right? So Bin TP, so it'll be easy for him to get in, right? Leona jumps in, and like now it's easy, right? Shen can just E, Ezreal can Q from a range and E forward to get in. But Angel literally just has to walk there and like drag his soldiers over. He has to QE in, right? So okay. So sorry. So I'm trying to illustrate my point. It might be a little weird because obviously that play worked really well for Suning. But the point I'm trying to make is Azir would have to put himself in there with the E, right? Which is not where Azir wants to be. Obviously in this scenario, it was good to do so because it was a winning position where Suning was just trying to pick people off. I'm just trying to illustrate that like Azir doesn't follow up stuff like that very well, right? Like Azir doesn't even really want to do Azir sex, right? That's like almost an outdated concept on Azir. Azir sex are more for like roams, picks, right? Small skirmishes. You don't usually do them in team fights, you know? You tend to want to save the ult for peel. It's just that in this composition, there's nothing really for Suning to peel ever, right? Like Pantheon shouldn't really be jumping in on backline or anything. It would only ever happen in skirmishes. So Bin's, sorry, not Bin. Angel's a little bit more free to just like jump in and throw his ult out. Anywho, how fantastic was that? So that was fully off the back of Bin just playing incredibly. I'm so impressed. He played the fight as well as possible, right? And even though Suning is so behind, not tilted, right? He's just being the best player he can be. And then very quick on the recall into TP to follow up. All of Suning's on the same page. They're like, we got a pick here. Damwon is committed forward. We got to go, right? We got to start making some picks, getting some kills if possible. They manage it. And even though Damwon's pretty good at getting initiated on, they were pretty far up and proactive trying to get that kill onto Bin, putting themselves out of position, and then Suning's able to get the Baron. I love it. I love every portion of it.
I do think the scaling is pretty good on their side. We already talked about the front to back.
Okay, here we go again. This is Elder. Once again, Suning is going to want to pull Damwon apart if possible. Showmaker has not gone the second item death cap on Ori. For the most part, I think no one's been doing it. I think it's really strong. I think people should do it, but no one has been, because obviously Leandri's is a very strong item, and the components are going to feel much better to buy than death cap. But the main point I'm trying to make is there's no upgraded death cap on Ori. She's probably like the best user of the Orin upgrades this game for the side of Damwon. Assuming that Ashe doesn't wait until Infedge to buy her upgrade, which she didn't. She just does the Bork, right, as would be expected. But right now, Azir's on a decent item spike, actually has the Nashors and the Leandries. Still will be pretty hard to cleave through Ornn, but there's not a lot of magic resist going around for Damwon otherwise. But the main thing is, once again, right, Suning's going to want to try and pull Damwon apart from being a ball if possible. Angel doesn't need to play as creatively. He's on much better items. He can kind of just play in front and try and DPS this time.
I think that they have the tanks to do it, they have the backline damage to do it, and I like what I'm seeing from Bin now, pushing in the bot lane, generating that extra source of pressure.
So Bin, of course, playing out of sight. He wants to try and find what he can. Barrel, right? Just looking for Bin. Both teams are aware of the win conditions. Suning's taking this super slow, right? They're like, if you guys aren't starting it, we don't have to do anything. Damwon, Damwon just need to walk up as a whole, right? Try and use their non-committal ults, the Ashe and the Ornn.
Suning 3,000 gold up, but the Elder Dragon buff with 4 elemental drakes is not something you can concede.
Oriana just did a sneaky base. I think that Damwon is trying to take advantage of the fact that Suning don't have full information here.
So Suning is not comfortable to start this fight. Earlier in the game, of course, Suning just started the dragon, pulled it down, and tried to look for backline access, but it didn't work. This time they're just saying, we aren't even willing to fight it. We are just here to stop you. We're going to catch waves, and we're just here to stop you. Because at the very least, Damwon have to be grouped. Suning doesn't have to be grouped to apply pressure, right? If Bin just pushes bottom, Damwon still have to be scared of Bin showing up from behind.
This was them catching Barrel as he tried to roam towards bot. Now Suning, they're going to start this off. They know that they don't have the
Alright, so now Suning is comfortable with starting this. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what spike they're happier with. No point in trying to dissect it. Let's see how it plays out. So a lot of DPS is going to come out from the Azir onto this Elder Dragon. And once again, Bin looking around the side. And we also have Sword Art up here. Just trying to pull Damwon in different directions. Right now, the supports are fighting, which actually gives Bin somewhat of an angle, but very smartly, Showmaker threw his Q over the wall. Even though there's a ward here, right? Little extra vision coming down through this tunnel. Double wards on Bin, right? They have full idea of where he is. Sword Art now trying his best to get onto the back line, trying to find an opening for Bin, trying to make it chaotic enough. Sword Art dies very quickly, and Damwon, right, very aware of the win conditions, walking back as a group. It would be even better if they could stay on the same side. I'm not sure. Naguri should probably play up with his team. He might not want to because Wukong's about to ult, and they want to minimize how many people fall into the into the Wukong ult, but probably be helpful if he plays on their side. But never mind. Showmaker lands an ult on Bin. They'll probably kill him very fast. We'll see. Bin gets a ton of damage. Takes Ghost down almost immediately. Very sad they doesn't get him. It's a big deal that Showmaker landed that ult. They needed that extra damage onto Wukong. The most threatening thing for Wukong when getting in fights like this is getting bursted down by the Orianna. And it can be tough for Ori to land an ult on Wukong just because of Wukong's mobility, right? So it's a big deal that Showmaker gets that damage out on time. And I didn't even notice, but I guess it wasn't really on screen, but Suning actually get the Elder down in time. So pretty incredibly played from Suning, right? That was a very tough position to play in. They had to play extremely well to make that work. They send Sword Art and Bin into their death, baiting a much harder initiate, but really just keeping Angel DPSing down the Baron, the Elder Dragon, who does extremely quickly. And now this spot right here actually looks excellent for Angel. He doesn't have Flash. We'll have to see. Canyon might just pop him too quickly, but if not, this is a really nice spot for Angel. If Angel can DPS down with the Elder buff, it's very close. It's very close. That was actually a very close turnaround from Suning. They could have probably gotten the kill on Canyon and just started kiting back. It's both fortunate and well played that Damwon was able to quickly pick out Angel before things became disastrous there. Of course, meanwhile, Huanfeng makes his own plays on this side of the map. Ooh, lands in the Ori ult. Oh, the side steps, he just needs to cure an auto and gets him. Well played. Showmaker is such a good player. This is a very fun game so far. Suning playing so well from an unwinnable position. I love it. As I said before, this Suning team, they play with so much heart, you know? They don't give up. It really makes me enjoy watching League of Legends, which is good, because usually I watch North American League of Legends where nobody tries and everyone just rolls over, and then I don't feel like watching anymore. Ooh, Vedi said what I said. Yeah, I felt like Angel actually could have maybe cleaned up there if he was lucky enough to live. He definitely didn't play wrong. Angel's having a great game, by the way. I flamed him a little bit before the cast started. I said basically, my main criticism with Angel is he messes up a bit in high pressure spots, but he's having an excellent game. He's playing very nicely.
Fear in terms of how they're treating these engagements. Suning have come out on top for the most part on the last couple of engages.
What I think we've been seeing here is that Damwon have kind of played their traditional style of control. Bot lane, and obviously things didn't pan out. And what we're seeing from Suning.
So the thing is when you are the comp with like a lot of initiate, right? You got to look for the picks. You got to be in the driver's seat, you know. And on one hand, that's a lot of pressure that you're putting on yourselves and your staff's putting on yourselves to perform, but it also gives you a lot of agency in controlling the pace of the game, right? And even though the early game didn't work out, Suning, having the crowd control tools, the initiate tools, are able to make plays and get Elder, get Baron.
The next Baron is going to be very crucial.
Yeah, but Suning have been that resilient all tournament.
Unfortunately, and I really hate to say this, at no point has it felt like Damwon is going to lose the game. I hate to say that, but no matter how many things go well for Suning, it still just feels like Damwon's comp is like very easy to pilot, basically just counters Suning's comp, and like the main scaling thread on Suning is Azir, and as I say, Azir can't follow up the initiates of the rest of Suning's comp. Ooh, they get Sword Art too early. Suning definitely think that Damwon has gone harder on the Baron than they have, but it really is just a straight up bait where they're waiting around the wall and have full vision control. That's too bad. They pick Sword Art really fast.
That is the power of the infernal soul.
And of course, tossing out Orialt like that, it has a very low cooldown at this point in the game. Keep in mind, Ori has the upgraded death cap at this point, along with the Void Staff on top of it. Ori is crazy strong. Azir is going to be even a little behind because he went Ludens to try and win that Infernal Soul team fight, which is too bad because the game actually extended so far. Surprisingly, he probably didn't have to. Okay, so once again, Damwon very grouped, Suning not grouped. A very awkward position for Azir for sure, but Suning can't win a traditional team fight, so they may as well try stuff. But Damwon very aware of their win conditions, not extending too far to zone, just standing on each other, comfortable about their ability to get Baron. Landed. Pretty exciting first game though, I cannot lie. Look, I don't know. It doesn't matter who wins. I knew Suning was going to give me bangers. Suning's gave me nothing but bangers. They're also honorable, also willing to fight to the death. I would be proud to have them as my players.
They are still keeping themselves relevant here. I mean, the Warmugs was just picked up by SOFM. Death Dance sitting for both Bin.
So 30 seconds until we get to the next Elder here. Bin shoving out bottom. Damwon very scared of looking for picks. It's hard for them to close out kills that they find on side lanes. They really just need to stay grouped. I like that Damwon's not throwing the game by going for unnecessary stuff. Staying grouped, pushing together. Wow, even Pantheon. Wait, why did Pantheon Q even hit that high? Was that Pantheon Q? It was, right? Just with the Infernal? Because it's just one lethality item.
The way in which we lose. So instead we're going to leverage our Baron buff. We still have a minute of it left. We're going to take as much away from you as possible. In the meantime, we're going to get...
Yeah, this absolutely felt like a Triforce Ezreal game. I think the Glacial Fist build is super overrated considering there's so many scenarios where Ezreal is not going to feel very pressured, this game included. Most of the physical damage threats are not divers, and like Pantheon's not ever going to really be diving on Ezreal. It's like a team fight loss if he does that. Anywho, they go for Pantheon ult onto Bin. Damwon thinks they can wrap around. As I've said before, plays like that are basically never going to work for Damwon. They don't have the correct follow-up. All they can do is hold space and zone control, but they are able to peel back onto the dragon after this, and they get it immediately. I think this has to be game, even if Suning play exceptionally well. Damwon's comp is too easy to pilot at this point. They should just clean up, even if stuff goes really fortunately for Suning. Really like well played Azir, you know. Wukong finds the backline well. It's none of that's probably gonna matter. And Damwon should definitely be looking to just end straight up right here. Full health bars, Baron buff, Elder buff, 4v5. So Suning's probably gonna want to maybe try and let Sword Art come back up, but like you know, they're gonna lose their base very quickly. Ooh, Damwon's backing. Interesting. Ooh, okay. So the scariest thing for Damwon in a spot like that is if they need to be proactive and end the game there, they're running into the Azir grinder. Azir is very skilled at this point. He will output a ton of damage, and Damwon is not playing outside of Azir's range with their composition. They are right at that mid-range point where Azir can just knock everyone down. And next fight will probably even be even scarier in that regard, because Azir has no death cap, right? He hasn't had death cap this whole game. And the next time these two teams fight, Azir probably will have his death cap. Suning at this point can transition to playing much more around Azir, because Azir is going to feel very absurd in the amount of damage he can do once he is this scaled up. Once again, looking for Bin on the side lane. Showmaker is coming around. The arrow not going to land. The arrow actually would have been very close to in range if Bin had to flash away. So once again, like, very tough for them to actually get onto Bin. But they shut down him split pushing. It is important that you know, they target a lane. You know, they target the lane where he's split pushing in, so that they don't have another lane threat to worry about. Top already has no inhibitors, so they're just gonna run up here. It's also like, I mean, there's always like debate which like lane you want to try and end through, right? I don't think it says. I don't know. I don't think there's like a perfect consensus on it. But once you've taken down an inhib, right, playing to the opposite side with the inhib you haven't taken often makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you'll want to play towards the closer to Baron, so maybe Damwon would want to play through middle to end because they'd want to play closer to where Baron is. But in this case, if something went fortunately for Damwon, it would have just been a game end straight up. So it makes sense why they're just playing away from the inhib. Yeah, this game is crazy because Azir can hold forever, and if Damwon misplay now, Azir will kill them very quickly. Which is fascinating because this is all on the back of Bin making that outplay bottom, and then Suning being super fast on the trigger and cleaning up the rest of Damwon, and then getting Baron, followed by getting Elder, right? That whole chain of events is why Damwon didn't win the game immediately. Because originally we envisioned a game where once Damwon gets their Orin items, the game just ends. But now we've actually hit a point where Azir is just the scariest dude, right? And now Ezreal as well, of course, very scary as well. Although I don't think Ezreal just cleaves his comp down, just because he's not that good at killing Ornn. Once again, I highly would have recommended Triforce this game. I think Glacial Shroud, super overrated item. Not Glacial Shroud, whatever the hell it's called. Frozen Fist. It's a lot of fun giving Ezreal infinity armor, or infinity just stats, but he's already one of the safest characters in the game. So like, for example, if you're versus like a Jace, that's like near unavoidable damage for Ezreal, the Frozen Fist can feel really good, or whatever the hell the item's called. just for an example. Anywho, Damwon bait the Baron again, and they end up catching S of M. Yeah, Damwon barely touching the Baron, really, just hanging around the wall waiting for people to walk up. This situation is one where Suning just doesn't... So, this is interesting, right? So when Damwon was doing objectives before, earlier in the game, Suning would try and pull Damwon apart, right, in different directions, try and have Bin pressure and initiate onto the backline. But at this point, the scaling of those initiate heroes isn't feeling as good, right? They're really going to get blown up by Damwon. And the scariest threat is Azir, who doesn't want to be playing like that, which is why Suning has the most strength right now when they're being pressured in their base, right? And Damwon's worried about running into Azir. But Suning can't play these fights like they were earlier in the game now. And unfortunately, if Angel dies here, I already called it game once, but it's feeling like it's game again. Pay attention how Damwon's just immediately running through top, right? There's no inhib here. They are planning on just ending off this.
Damwon have been looking for. They shut down with Damwon, the kill lead, the Baron in their back pocket, and an empty inhibitor.
Orin's so tanky here.
They're looking to end game one.
It has felt like a long time coming.
It's so much less scary running in to break these turrets when Azir's not alive, right?
They will get themselves the GA out of Bin. The knock up onto Huanfeng and he jumps away. The Cyclone goes up, but there's just not enough damage. A lot is returned back onto Ghost. His GA is still up. The first Nexus turret is down, and I think the Showmaker Shockwave did not really do much. Huanfeng is taken out in the backside of the fight, and SOFM will
Okay, cool. Fun game one. Let's go on to game two. Actually, really fun game one. But it is sort of sad how I'm getting like random Fortnite ads because I've been playing Spellbreak, so I have the Epic Games client open. It is interesting how how hopeless, as I told you guys, how hopeless I felt that game was, even though Suning kept finding opportunities. It did feel like Suning had opportunities to win at the very end, though, when Azir was so strong that he was able to ward off Damwon running into Suning's base. Let's check out this game too. So let's think together, right? We saw the way the game played out. What worked, what didn't work, right? So Suning's still very strong with their initiation tools, they've proven. So strong with them, they can catch Damwon off guard, who's a very talented team. So maybe let's play with our proactive tools still, but let's ban a lot of these strong, more reactive heroes. And maybe let's get more lane priority early, hopefully. But that's probably like an overall mistake, just so that we don't get crushed in dragons, which made the game super hard. So that's some stuff that Suning can target and think about. What went well, what went poorly for Damwon? The draft probably overall felt pretty good, right? I think Damwon's issues are going to be more of in-game things, right? They need to... This is going to sound really weird, but if they were less proactive after the 4th dragon, they actually would have ended faster, right? Them trying to catch Bin in the side lane, although it was a straight outplay out of Bin, Damwon was overzealous in their comp's initiation capabilities. But honestly, Damwon's really good at playing around that already. If I was a coach, I wouldn't want to get in my team's head by nitpicking something that overall they're really great players at playing around. I want to be a good coach right now, so I'm trying to think of what I would tell Damwon. I'd probably just go over a lot of the stuff that I think that they did well, right? I think the mistakes were for the most part obvious and stuff Damwon already plays pretty well around. But let's check out these bans. So we are getting the same side selection, right? Most people prefer blue side, but Suning is choosing red side, and that will allow them to counterpick for Bin, which can definitely be a big deal. I think the Wukong always looks very scary. They always piloted very nicely as a team. Once again, we are seeing the Camille off the table. This time, Damwon is leaving... they were leaving up the Syndra, who I think has a much higher priority in these games. As I said, maybe Suning is going to focus more on getting more lane priority If so, Ori is the basically end all be all middle when Syndra is banned. So if Syndra and Ori are up, they can kind of go toe to toe, although it will still be in Syndra's favor. But it will. But maybe if Damwon is more interested in picking a jungler first and thinks Suning is going to just take the Ori, then it would make sense to leave Syndra up this time so that Damwon get at least one of the two of them. So that's something we can think about. Damwon might also be interested in a global alt comp for whatever reason, just based on how they think Suning will adapt, and maybe they don't want they wouldn't want Silas chasing around TF, or maybe they wanted to force Suning to ban TF again, so Suning immediately respond with the TF ban as they did last game, but there might be additional incentive to do so if Silas is able to match TF by taking his ultimate, as we've seen many times before. And then some other different bans. Jhin is up this game. Instead, Ashe is banned. Nidalee is down again. And this time, Graves is banned. So the only farm jungler up is Lilia. I think Lilia's priority is not as high in the super high level games. We've also seen, I think, SFM specifically pick Kindred into not Graves. So we might see that again. Of course, Kindred does seem the best into Graves. And of course, I talked about all this useless stuff because I just didn't notice Lucian was up. So Lucian's like easily the highest priority hero, the most pick ban priority in all of Worlds. He's basically banned every single game, and the games that he does go through, he looks very strong. I'd say all except that one game where G2 decided to send him bottom, which I would not recommend you try at home. Unless it's solo queue, and unless your home is solo queue, then it's fine. But that is Lucian first pick, as you would imagine it would be. So if Suning wants to get something off of this, the Jhin has had high priority for sure. And then we just have to see if anyone's feeling Lilia today. Her priority is up and down for sure, but there's not really anything to contest her with Nidalee and Graves down. So there's Lucian. Lucian can go in many roles. Hopefully it'll be mid or top. I'm down for Lucian jungle before I see him bottom again. But right now, so Lucian can play at a lot of speeds, right? He can be good at counter at playing reactively into initiates. He can also follow up plays really well because he can just ult, as well as he has a dash and can reset it quite easily. Suning right now representing a lot of range with the Syndra QE and the Jhin follow-up with his ult and W. So Suning definitely can play more into that. They can draft more initiate like they usually do and like to, but still play at a lot of range with the Syndra and the Jhin. And the Evelynn pick here is super unexpected for me, but this is similar to a comp that Fnatic like to play, where they can have Evelynn be a carry AP threat, because Lucian is going to be their primary, Lucian's their mid laner, which is where you usually have the magic damage come through, right? So you need a hard magic damage threat, and Evelynn will fill that role nicely. Plus, Evelynn can be a little bit difficult to get through the early game with. It's really easy to invade her. She does kind of just have to farm up, and then Selfmade's Evelynn has looked the best to me. What he does in the mid game is he doesn't commit very hard to anything. He sort of just runs around the map back and forth, pressuring the potential of him being there because he's invisible, as opposed to actually committing onto things. And his game sense is so good that when you think it's finally safe to do anything, he's kind of actually there that time, right? So getting some lane prio for Evelynn, very helpful. Of course, pretty difficult to get lane prio against Syndra, but Lucian very overpowered this patch. Let's see what else comes through. Right now, if Suning's interested, they can just keep playing with the range, but I think Initiate looks super viable here. They can just have I think at this point, Suning can just. I think their draft can be very straightforward and still not that easy to beat. They can just play with Jin's and Syndra's far range when setting up for sieges and setting up a line of skirmish in front of Dragon, while still drafting all the proactive initiate tools they're so comfortable with, as opposed to peel tools for their long-ranged heroes. I think just drafting additional initiate would do them well. Also, Leona, not like still threatening enough at warding off an initiate. Anywho, Damwon's comp kind of flexible. This is game 2. Damwon's comp semi-flexible. It's always hard for me to kind of picture what sort of comp Evelyn's good into, for the most part, because I unfortunately am forced to play with an Evelyn player quite often. The best way to play with her often feels like just start fighting, set up a scenario where she can show up a little later, and maybe make her own picks and clean up. And some heroes just kind of work like that. It's kind of also how you want to play with Kha'Zix a lot of the time. Maybe that's how Damwon's going to want to play her. So less reactive, more initiate heavy. Since both teams, since Suning is right now drafting a comp that leaves their backline quite open, Damwon is still able to pick a certain style of hero that's very good when the front line leaves the backline open. Usually those heroes go top, though. My favorites of those are like Wukong, Aatrox. Obviously, both solo lane roles have been occupied. Please, I hope Lucian is not going bottom. So Damwon can't really draft against that, but that's like the sort of options I'd be considering. I'm just trying to give an idea of like the style of heroes I'm thinking about. Anywho, we see a Senna ban. Senna would definitely not really help Evelyn in the early game. And in general, my favorite Senna comps are where she scales up and is backing up frontline by giving shielding and healing, which is not something Senna would do here. Don't love the Senna ban at all, really. Lee Sin ban coming out of Damwon. Lee Sin looks really good into Suning's comp. Suning, I think, can just draft a bunch of proactivity initiate and just play with Syndra and Jin's range at this point. I think it'll end up being a comp that Suning will feel comfortable on, which is most important, right? More important than just straight winning the draft. You need you want your players to be able to pilot their heroes effectively. Draven band. Draven actually looks really decent here. Draven would give a lot of space for Evelyn because he's a very good laner. I think traditionally you would like a jungler that can back up Draven, and it'll be pretty tough for Evelyn to back up Draven in the early game, but it would allow for Evelyn to have a lot of space. It would just need to be played well, I think I'd have to say, right? Like, it would just be hard to play, but possible nonetheless. Draven's like a very good follow-up AD, following up plays, because he has a movement speed burst. He can actually go forward and follow initiate. So I'd probably want to take out proactive tools for Suning if possible. Wukong, yeah, he looks fine here, honestly. I think these Damwon bans make a lot of sense. My main second rotation ban that I didn't like is Senna. Everything else looks very solid. Okay, so like the one spoiler I had about this game is that I heard Rengar was drafted. Trying to conceptualize when Rengar is good is really tough because he really does just look for picks. He tries to make the game as awkward as possible and just look for picks. I think for the most part, you don't want to play Rengar into a comp similar to the one Damwon drafted last game where they're all balled together. I think a comp you'd want to play Rengar into is actually the sort of comp Suning has already drafted. Let's pretend Suning didn't draft Rengar and look at their other 3 heroes. They're currently showing a style of comp where Syndra and Jin follow up frontline initiate, leaving the carries Syndra and Jin very exposed. So what sort of comp would that look like? Let's say that they actually do end up drafting the Wukong and the Lee Sin. Let's say they weren't banned. So Suning has Wukong, Lee Sin, Leona, Syndra, Jin. Let's imagine a style of comp like that. Wukong, Lee Sin, and Leona all dive in, try and try and set up and then be followed up by Syndra EQs and Jhin W alts, right? Leaving the Jhin and Syndra very exposed. That would be a comp where Rengar would feel very good to play into. Although most Rengar players would probably say they hate fighting Leona, I think that's a style of comp that maybe you'd consider. Maybe you'd want to be fighting not a Leona though. Maybe like that plus an Enchanter. Hard to say. But I'm just trying to give an idea of where maybe Rengar would look good. I will say that Rengar has some potential to bully Evelynn in the early game while lasting. Yeah, I know Leona was drafted for Suning. I'm pretty sure I was being pretty clear about what I was talking about there. I gave an example comp of where Rengar would look good. I said it would look good, for example, into what Suning is currently drafted. I was trying to orchestrate a scenario where I would imagine Rengar would feel good. Anywho, Rengar is going to feel pretty good into the Evelynn. Can also spot her while invisible with his ult, right? Similar to how he plays versus Kha'Zix, because some people like that matchup. But yeah, it's hard to pick scenarios where Rengar feels good. For the most part, just a scaling hero that looks for picks. But feels pretty good into Evelynn is a semi-real counter. Damwon's early game feeling pretty good. And I think at this point, you might want to look for stuff that deals with Rengar well. Before, I was talking about Damwon drafting more Initiate to try and set up for Evelynn. But with what Suning has currently shown, you might want to dip more into the reactive peel heroes. And that is basically what Damwon has done. And I'm feeling lukewarm about it. I agree that Thresh and Aphelios will be answers to Rengar because it's very easy to draft a comp where Rengar just feels terrible to play into. And I think Damwon right now have that. They've officially locked in their heroes and have a lot of peel stuff that's hard to dive into. Thresh, Aphelios, love being dove into. Ornn can back them up. Lucian can also do so. The main issue is at this point, they're now going to have a very hard time dealing with the range of Syndra and Jhin. Rengar can jump in, make a lot of space, and Syndra and Jhin can probably have a field day. I think one thing that we want to picture in our head and think about is if Rengar jumps in and dies off the bat, is that enough setup where Syndra and Jhin win the team fight? And it's a maybe. It's honestly a maybe if we assume it doesn't get too far in the game where Evelynn and Aphelios are threatening. But very interesting comps drafted right now that play at very different speeds. As I talked about, the first game in a series usually are testing the water, and then it gets a little spicier from there. So I got a question on chat. Why is Aphelios good into Rengar? It's a totally reasonable question. So first of all, no carries are really good into Rengar, right? Rengar just one-shots you. So is the answer don't draft carries into Rengar? Obviously not, right? It's very hard to make a well-rounded composition without actual carries on your team, which is why we traditionally will see a caster middle and an AD carry bottom. But what we can do, so maybe we can't keep the AD carry alive in like a 1v1 sense, but what we can do is we can draft AD carries that are better when people dive into them, right? So for example, let's first think about an AD carry that's bad at being dove on. Jhin doesn't like being dove on, right? Jhin doesn't like kiting. Jhin likes following things up. Jhin wants people to jump forward and follow them up with W and alt, right? So Jhin feels terrible into Rengar. A sort of AD carry that likes to get dove on, though, is Aphelios. His only follow-up ability is his ult, and they nerf the range, right, to make him less overpowered and actually have a stronger identity, which is he is the anti-dive AD carry. Aphelios is just a blender of damage with a low range, right? Stuff that outranges him, great. Right, but stuff that dives into him, really weak because he's just a blender, right? So once you pair Aphelios with peeling tools like the Ornn and the Thresh, then divers like Rengar start feeling a lot worse. So the question got adapted a little bit to why maybe would you not draft a more mobile AD carry like Ezreal instead? And that is reasonable as well. Ezreal builds a lot of armor. I think actually Ezreal is a good answer as well. But the heroes do perform sort of different functions. Ezreal's very good at staying alive. Aphelios is very good at providing a secondary threat. Ezreal isn't like a blender of damage. Ezreal's the best aspects of Ezreal are how flexible he is in the draft. He basically fits into any composition, and the fact that he plays bot lane so safely. He doesn't. He allows you to play towards topside if you're so inclined, because he's very hard to kill in the bot lane. And then Ezreal just sort of just sits around scaling, and he's just very flexible in the way he plays. But he's not like an anti-initiate blender. He's just good at keeping himself alive, right? We have to think about, well, is that helpful? Like, is Ezreal just being alive when getting Damwon helpful, or is it more helpful to draft something that's maybe just going to create a lot of damage when things do come in? And that's like a question. That's like a reasonable question, right? Maybe it is just better to keep Ezreal alive, right? Or maybe it's better to just have this blender of damage, right? And that's more of like something that can be debated. But anywho, let's check out this last draft here. So I think Suning really have to hard commit to initiate here. If they wanted, they could draft something more peel oriented to try and keep Evelyn off of the backline, because at this moment Suning is diving in and the backline is open to Evelyn and they don't have great answers. But that might just be the way the cookie crumbles. Maybe if Damwon had more damage in the top half of their map, Ezreal would have been better. Yeah, totally, maybe. Totally. Whoa. Okay, Fiora is a very interesting way that this draft has taken a turn. So Fiora is a hero that I definitely thought we would see more of at Worlds, and Fiora being drafted is you asking yourself a very simple question, because Fiora is unbeatable in a 1v1 sense and basically always gets ahead. So there's one very simple question that we ask ourselves when we look at Fiora. Is split pushing even a viable strategy? Is that even a thing, right? Can you draft a hero that can't team fight and cannot fight dragons properly? Because Fiora fights everything on the other team like absolute garbage, right? All she will be able to do is split push. And if you think that's if you think that's still a playable strategy, then Fiora is broken. If you don't think it's a playable strategy, then Fiora is the worst hero in the game. It's one or the other. Hard to say. I definitely thought we'd see her more, though, but I will take a Grand Finals game for sure. But it totally changes up the way that Suning play, right? Because now when we envision Suning's comp, we are envisioning a 4v4, while Fiora just pulls pressure to another lane. We can also picture a scenario where if Rengar gets kind of ahead, maybe Rengar starts split pushing on his own. I know you don't usually see strategies like that anymore, but it is something available to Rengar, where Rengar and Fiora can set up a 1-3-1, and then the rest of Suning can group together. But yeah, Fiora totally changes up the dynamic. Now we're looking at a 4v4 without Fiora during team fights, because Fiora plays terribly into every other hero on the team and can't really team fight in general. And it's really hard to figure out how this game's going to play out. Rengar and Leona are basically jumping into a grinder, but they're making a lot of space for Ezreal and Syndra. I think this game is really going to come down to the speed of item timings, because if Suning's frontline jumps forward and Evelyn is in a good spot, Evelyn will wipe the backline. But if Suning's comp jumps forward and Syndra and potentially Jhin are in a really good spot, then Syndra's QE combo is going to be super scary. Did I say Ezreal? I meant to say Aphelios, maybe. I don't know who I said. My bad. Anywho, so I think a lot of this is going to come down to item spikes, and there's a crazy amount of early game prio on the side of Suning, a lot of lane priority. The main scary laner here out of Damwon is the Lucian. And I think if Damwon was interested in drafting this Evelynn, they should have tried a little harder to get more lane priority top or bottom. What is this play? That's so strange. That can make a big deal though, by the way. It was also so this is like actually really standard. If you're playing Rengar versus Evelynn in a matchup like this, you basically always go in an invade level 1. So that's actually really standard, by the way. So I wanna try and give like an idea of whose comp I think is better. It's really hard for me to straight up say with Fiora comps because like a lot of it is like, do you even think Fiora is good, you know? So like when you draft split pushers, one thing that you're looking at is low initiate comps, because the other team can't pull the trigger proactively when you're a split pusher split pushing. And yeah, Damwon will have trouble pulling the trigger this game. They're mainly going to be trying to create an environment where Rengar and Leona can't dive in. And yeah, I think this game is going to come down pretty heavily to item spikes. I am honestly quite worried for Damwon though. There's a lot of lane priority, and as I've expressed, if Evelynn is not in a good item point, then when Rengar and Leona jump in, opening up the back line, right, leaving the carries Jhin and Syndra exposed, if Canyon's not strong enough to just take them down, that's an issue.
Well, I think that it's pretty safe to assume that the dive doesn't go through.
I'm also gonna... So right now, Rengar has completely split the map, right, by invading. Now the top half belongs to Damwon, the bottom half belongs to Suning. I'm going to throw out an opinion that most people might not have. Fiora is actually one of the best weak side playing heroes in the game. It's super easy for her to pick up farm on weak side, and she's not even that good at following up ganks in the first place. I think creating like a 1v1 environment where Fiora kind of just farms until eventually she's strong enough to like 1v1 her opponent / 2v1 is actually really good. So that might help explain why SFM decided to split the map bot wise. She's also pretty hard to 2v1 dive. Yeah, agreed.
One of the other things I did want to note is that we've been
Totally agreed, because when you're splitting the map, that's like a big thing to think about. It's not just like, can you beat your opponent, can you live ganks? It's also, can you live if the wave gets built up and they dive your ass? And hopefully Fiora can. Angel doing a really good job here. He got that little boost. If you put in some extra resources, in this case Bin running middle to Q Showmaker, if you put some extra resources in a lane, you better hope that lane performs. And Angel's doing a nice job so far. I think like the only time this Worlds I can remember seeing Syndra versus Lucian was TSM versus Fnatic, and the Syndra one, Bjergsen won pretty hard. But I'm not sure if that's actually a winning lane, because Lucian just seems like he beats everything. Anywho, Bin is probably aware that Canyon's coming, and he's looking to get Naguri low enough that it's too scary for Canyon to get a kill here. And really, Evelyn's ganking abilities at this point in the game suck. So Bin's really playing on the edge here, but honestly relatively safe with all things said. Probably did score a kill if he W'd Naguri's E, but that's alright.
But because Noguri didn't take the trade that he wanted, he was forced to flash out, and that meant the Canyon only used the...
Most of this game is playing out as expected. Canyon's gonna really want to keep farming though. So Canyon was afraid to go into Suning's jungle and just went for the top gank instead. No, there's no way Canyon could kill him. Canyon would have to like flash forward, and Perry was still up. So Canyon's being really proactive instead of farming right now, and this is actually looking pretty good. One of the biggest advantages to Thresh is he sets up for ganks really nicely. That was really close to being a kill, and they end up getting both flashes anyways, as well as Ignite and Heal. So that's a ton of summoners. Canyon can hopefully show back up here in a little while.
Is at risk of getting rooted in place, but will not do so. 1 to 3 summoner spells, 4 summoner spells secured.
But yeah, I remember back in the day, Sneaky all the time used to talk about how much he hated fighting Thresh, and it wasn't from a laning perspective, it was just that he made jungle ganks so unpredictable because he could always just lantern the jungler in at any time, and it's very little counterplay, right? So anywho, Canyon ends up getting all the sums, but the bot lane backs up after shoving out bot right after. And in the meantime, this leaves Dragon free for S of M. And which is pretty good because it's going to be hard to contest dragons when you are running a Fiora comp. Beryl, interestingly, has walked up top here. Not something I would expect in this situation. The Rift Herald is not quite up yet, which is usually when you see the first support rotation. But nothing bad happens. Ghost just walks to lane anyways, and Suning's bot had to back regardless. Right now, Sword Art looking at... Yeah, I know that my webcam and socials block some sums. That's life. They have to go somewhere.
They just, flirt with mid lane a little. There's no support. There's nothing else happening, but always showing support to the rest of the laners as Showmaker has come back into lane with that pickaxe. So a lot more attempts at getting kills and advantages this game.
So keeping Lucian down, absolutely win condition.
So the things that Damwon needed to be concerned about in the early game was the 2v2 in the bot side of the map, while also potentially looking to get early kills onto the Fiora. So the good news for both teams is number one, Fiora is thriving right now. She is very comfortable.
Okay, so I just got asked, is it worth putting resources into getting Fiora behind, or is it not worth because you'd be getting Ornn ahead? Yeah, so I mean, once again, this is sort of a philosophical question about League of Legends, but a lot of the time ganking for Ornn lanes suck because you're putting gold onto Ornn, or you're just like giving resources and help to a hero that does nothing with gold, right? In an ideal world, hopefully Evelynn ends up getting the kill. Picking up free kills as a scaling jungler, always helpful. But the last time we saw Fiora, I'm trying to remember who played it. One of the Worlds games, right? There was a Fiora, but I'm just having trouble remembering which team played it. But their opponents spent a lot of time putting Fiora behind. I think it was one of G2's games, wasn't it? Sorry, I'm just watching S of M here. But if you do put Fiora behind enough, she is super useless. It is a worthwhile use of time, but it will take like a lot of time. So it needs to be a situation where you feel like if we spend a lot of time top, we won't lose the game elsewhere, because you can't spend a little time ganking Fiora. You have to spend a lot of time. She's pretty safe and is basically guaranteed to win 1v1s no matter what happens.
What of course it does give is information to Canyon that the Rift Herald is an option for him. So he's going to path it towards top, secure that objective, and that's going to assist Damwon a little bit later on. Meanwhile, he's going to go back and clear his top side, while SOFM is looking to clear his bot side of the map.
Well, let's see how this next few minutes plays out. I do want to take a brief interlude.
Angel's pretty strong right now, and Canyon still hasn't landed any kills on himself. Not that I would really expect Evelynn to have found kills at this point, but this is really looking really good for Suning, right? Because once the front line of Suning jumps in, so much space for Syndra to just really output a lot of damage. And we've seen Angel have some pretty good Syndra performances and been pretty smart about his QEs. I think I really just want to say that this game is going to really come down to gold values a lot. I think item spikes and gold values are just going to be super impactful this game. So a lot of player skill and expression is going to come in. Once again, all dependent on even if you think Fiora is a good hero whatsoever. And if we're just looking at gold values, then Suning has a lot of priority on their side. They should pull ahead.
whether or not they will actually
Should.
do it, because I think at this point in the game, especially when you go for the Mora mana upgrade on Lucian, you're a little bit weaker in the early game relative to, well, I suppose Syndra, even only on a lost chapter. I suppose the teams are feeling right now. Ghost and Barrel are
Lucian's almost finished up with his cull here.
part of that is because of the vision that we just.
Rewards to clear it. I also think the fact that Huanfeng and Sword
Do you have any coffee left? Oh, a little bit.
Ooh, that is an awful time.
Game paused. Wow, we haven't gotten like any pauses this Worlds. I actually only watch for the pauses. I'm not interested in the gameplay. I just want to see the player cams.
One shot Rengar. He's building tank Rengar. Now, a lot of
Good thing we're watching a VOD. Whoa, what the heck is happening?
He's building tank Rengar. Now, a lot of stuff has just happened.
Oh, we're right back in. We're right back in. Teleports come down to the bottom lane. Flash has been used by Angel.
Ooh, Showmaker trying to follow up here.
You can find out exactly what.
I feel like when you pick Lucian, there's a lot of pressure on you to perform, and sometimes people play a little shaky because they understand that they got such a power pick. It's really on them to make things happen.
Was Canyon hovering around mid.
It reminds me of like Scout going to Worlds and just like making a bunch of like crazy plays that sometimes work, sometimes don't. Oh wow, Canyon gets a kill here.
Be successful. Canyon hovering.
Just a lot of damage comes out of Evelyn. She's backed for her jungle item at this point in the game, so it's a pretty noticeable spike. What with the ult and the electrocute proc.
Blood solo.
And I mean, that's great. That'll really help Damwon's ability to win this game, right? We're just really measuring gold values.
First blood.
Of course, this that play will still net the dragon for Suning. SFM's very on top of it.
We saw FM is still lingering, and we saw Canyon just starting to back away to his Krugs. So it ends up being a 2,000 gold lead here for Damwon. And he has
Oh, we're seeing another replay of something that happened. Oh, they get the flash out of Angel.
Coming out from Angel, showing that respect towards Showmaker and Canyon. He's now forced to play defensively, and this is the invisible pressure that an Evelyn can consider.
So I think something that I probably would have expected to happen more this game that didn't is with Rengar, Fiora, Syndra.
Play, and we even got the
I would have expected more invades on Evelyn.
side of the map.
The early game advantages the heroes on Suning had over Damwon,
Side of the map.
that power was used to split the map, and I think it could have been used to put Evelyn behind. I think that's how a lot of
Also, first
junglers would have navigated this matchup.
for the
Because right now Evelyn is in a good spot, which is one of Damwon's main win conditions.
Suning have got themselves 2 Drakes. I do think that
And Suning just had so many strong lanes, and
to try and challenge, or
I don't know. It just seems like they should have looked for some jungle skirmishes.
completed his first big item return to the top lane. I think
Sometimes it feels like people go a little easy on champions like Evelyn.
lane. Potential of Rengar
When you can invade much harder if you draft winning lanes.
can play through this this game to try to look for an advantage.
Well, I think Suning still have the 4 Drake win condition, right?
Yeah.
They obviously have the first 2 Drakes, and I think that in terms of early control, we haven't really seen they would have liked to have been in the early game, and now Canyon.
So on the bright side, there's a ton of time for Suning to get going on their Fiora split push because they got the first 2 dragons, so they can let 3 dragons fall in a row now and not be worried about Soul.
Leoni's building up for the initiation, but Sword Art held.
So it's really good that SFM was always able to pick up these dragons off the back of Damwon's movements.
Many players actually call him the coach.
And maybe like that use of Rengar's time is better, right? Maybe I'm wrong, and like that's just stalling out for Fiora is a better use of Rengar's time by securing dragons.
For sure. And we kind of need to see a little bit more from him in this game. Like right now, the pressure's starting to mount. You can see 4 members on their way bot. They're looking to try and secure this
Damwon really setting up on him right now.
all across the board, and now Canyon has snuck.
Angel's actually back.
With a numbers advantage, Damwon
This game he's decided Ludens should come first.
set up. If you've been watching for the entire game, Various highlighted the control wards much earlier, saying and very similarly, they picked themselves up the first tower.
Yeah, right now Suning's playing pretty respectfully of Evelyn.
Canyon, top 3 in the
Meanwhile, SFM is grabbing that Rift Herald. He's just going to keep picking up these
Of course, you don't see it in the item.
objectives back and forth.
It's a pretty big advantage in the bot lane, and for Damwon, this was
Last game it seemed like Canyon got everything. This game SFM is saying, hell no, they're mine. Okay, this fight's already starting super awkward. So Fiora, not the greatest team fighter in the world, and right, when Suning jumps in, they want to set up for Jin and Syndra, two heroes that aren't even there, so this current iteration of their 3v3 is going to feel unbelievably awkward. Evelyn's spells are down, Syndra's getting zoned, so she can't follow up anything that happens. But Suning is able to find a pick right onto Canyon. They just go together and jump on him, good targeting, good shot calling. And we can see how the rest of this plays out, because right now everyone on Suning is obviously committed forward, right? And the carries aren't there to follow up the damage. It's a pretty close fight, pretty interesting. So Jin finally gets there and applies a ton of damage with his ult, which definitely alters the pace of this fight. Ghost doesn't have the, I don't even know what it's called, the boomerang ult or whatever. Not ult, the gun. Alright, so hard for me to figure out where that fight was going to go for sure. It was pretty scrappy. We can watch it again, because it's pretty interesting as well. So Damwon probably wants to go in and have Evelyn's damage follow up, but Evelyn gets popped immediately. Really good on Suning, super fast on the trigger. Always impressed with them in that regard. And then my biggest issue, of course, is the carries not having access. Angel just like he's not really sure how to play this. He wants to help out his team, but they've left him alone. Showmaker plays like an assassin basically, jumps in and then gets saved by Barrel's lantern. But of course he is eventually picked up by SFM, who jumps over the wall. Then Lucian's right on a bush, and when you're on a bush is exactly where Rengar wants you. SFM played that so well, yeah.
Because they're able to reset first on the map, they're going to get themselves third Drake. So even though they're at a goal deficit, it's kind of similar to last game where their kind of control over the map seems a little bit stronger right now.
0 towers to 1, 3 kills to 3. And this Soul is probably going to be about 2 minutes slower than game 1, but we're on for the same approach. Barrel was looking for
I mean, the biggest,
and SOFM is going to
he's
jump
hunting.
in. He's in trouble. Sentence, unable to find a target.
Okay, so right now SFM's trying to be super proactive, right? We watch out for that Syndra EQ. Really only hits one because Canyon gets out with his ult in time, right? This is not where Canyon wants to be during these fights, right? Canyon wants to be pressuring a potential initiate on the backline once spells like the Syndra EQ and Jin W are committed and the front line's already gone in. But that's not the situation that continues to be orchestrated, right? As Suning keeps going in before Canyon is set up. Of course, Damwon doesn't actually get anything off the back of that, nor does Suning get anything with the initiate. But that's currently how stuff's playing out. If Suning sees Canyon and initiates towards where he is, the backline feels much safer, because we're not going to see a lot of fights like that Rift Herald where Lucian's just going to be able to jump on the backline. It's not really a realistic way for things to play out.
His goal is to be a nuisance. He does it on his Lee Sin, he does it on his Shen, he's going to do it again. Jump gets interrupted by Barrel, but it doesn't matter, because his W in your way, focus me,
This game, the movement and the amount of time multiple members playing on a Cloud Rift. And I think the thought of Rengar, how effective
Veil has come through. I think that Canyon has to be a lot more patient in these fights. And look what he's doing right now. Pay attention to the minimap. Hovering the Lucian in top lane. So that when the enemy comes to match, you can pick. But again...
So right now, SFM... okay. So SFM basically sniffs out that Evelyn's on the top side of the map, and Alt ends up seeing her because it can see invisible targets. And right now he's just given space to Angel, and honestly it was pretty close to being a kill as well.
This is what we talked about in draft. Both champions can do exactly the same thing.
So
their solo lanes, and that Evelyn becomes a lot less scary. But it's not a 1v2. It's actually
So this is like the other part of the Rengar spoiler that was brought up to me. You may notice that this is perhaps a bit of an atypical Rengar build. Remember earlier when I made a joke about how it seems like SFM literally just goes like Knight's Vow Spirit Visage on every hero? Well, it was more than just a joke. I actually don't know if he's going Spirit Visage, but it seems like he goes literally the same build on everyone.
Still down 2.5k gold, so they do need to play around this next dragon, and they do need to find a way to deal with Ghost, who is getting a little closer to 2,000 years.
Ghost is the scariest point of...
And yeah, I can't recommend that build, but once again, if we do think a little bit about how the comp plays out, he is kind of an initiator here, and it was more or less chosen as like an Evelyn counter to sniff her out. So there is actually some method to the madness, although I don't know if I can really recommend picking Rengar and not just building damage. He's actually invisible here, and Showmaker jumps in not expecting Angel to come around the side. So Showmaker's aware that he's seen by Rengar, but he doesn't think anyone's towards top. So that's a good pick. So this is Damwon they can initiate, right? So low committal ultimate with the Ornald followed up by the low committal hook of Thresh, and that is a way that Damwon's comp can initiate with uneven numbers. Of course, when they're stuck in a position like this, Damwon's comp will perform not as well. So let's see how it turns out. So Bin's trying to get in. He does get exhausted, but Fiora, this fight should be scrappy enough for Fiora to actually feel pretty good. Canyon gets out with his ult and doesn't actually finish off the kill onto Sword Art. What is... hold on. So Angel's going to try and chuck his QE into here. Ends up hitting Canyon. Doesn't land on an Aguri. I'm not sure if Bin flashes. He just flashes to get away from Ghost. Seems unnecessary. Unless Thresh threw a hook and I didn't see it, which might have happened. Pretty scrappy. These fights are really interesting. These comps are like super strange and atypical, and therefore the fights are just like crazy scrappy. It's really hard for me to like... identify who's going to win in like a quick fashion. You know, I like to try and like guess where I think the team fights are going, but it just like it feels like there's so much like skill expression that can be expressed with these team fights.
Ghost used his ultimate when he had the purple gun, so he had the roots to guarantee the knockup from Noguri. That meant that they could guarantee the kill, but it also meant that they were stuck underneath the tower. So this meant that Suning could look for a collapse, but then great patient play from Damwon allowed them to just disengage.
So in 15 seconds we have a dragon. Maybe we will see a more typical team fight. I don't know. So Sword Art goes for an ult onto Beryl. Beryl Mikhails himself. So they do get the Mikhails out. They feel like it's a pick that they can make onto Thresh before everyone else is set up. Damwon not going to want to initiate, right? They're going to want to walk up slowly and open up the backline for Canyon. Being his way out on the other side here. He should be able to get away. Does take a lot of damage though. Sword Art and SVM are just going to want to look for picks. Sword Art just walking up with his Q ability right now, has not committed E yet and doesn't have the ult. He may have gone too far considering this bush is warded though. He's taking a ton of damage going into that Aphelios grinder, and Aphelios has very ideal weapons right now. So Suning is pushed up but haven't really committed any of their initiate spells at this point. So they've just kind of gotten DPS down by that Lucian Aphelios grinder. And I have to say, from this pause right now, it does look like Suning's going to get wiped because Canyon is exactly where he wants to be. We kept talking about this. We want him to find backline access while Suning is going forward onto Damwon's comp. Suning was not able to cleanly initiate at this point. They don't have Leonald. I think Suning's comps would have to be very clean right now. They'd have to immediately jump onto someone of Damwon to salvage this fight, because right now it looks like it's going to be Damwon just acing them. Canyon gets the Banshees off of Angel, casts his ult. It should deal a fair amount of damage, and Sword Art should go down. He actually only hits one with his Evelyn ult. I thought it hit at least two. Sword Art's just dead though, and now it's too hard for Suning to get back in. Cool.
To come out on top and they Drake of the game. They now have their eyes set on the Baron. Noguri more than capable of tanking this one up as well. And look at the guns the Ghost has. The chakrams are ready to fly. He's going to throw that one down, and they're just going to melt through this Baron.
They will melt this one really, really quickly. No flash available.
So Damwon immediately jumps onto the Baron here. Rengar can actually...
He's charging.
I guess he doesn't have ult, but if he had ult, maybe something could happen.
The red buff is used.
Okay, sorry. I need to watch this.
Vision being caught out. Death sentence will connect onto SFM.
So Barrel's already around the wall. Angel comes to try and follow up onto Barrel. Showmaker comes around the wall and gets onto Angel, blows him up immediately, right? The backline is so exposed when they try and follow up the members of Suning. On the other side, Bin has come around and is trying to just cleave down the front line that's been somewhat DPS'd by the Baron. And he does get Ornn. Very scrappy fights.
Damwon can get behind these three. That solar flare can do work. But crucially, the LPL have stopped the Baron.
I think the biggest thing, zooming away from the fight, but I think that wrote down exactly what happened, and I think the red buff was my favorite part of it when Angel...
So I kept talking about that I felt like this game would be decided by gold values, right? It's about where the carries on Suning would be. Right now, they are not feeling that good. And about where the Evelynn would be. And the Evelynn's feeling pretty good. But honestly, these team fights are playing out in a way where the Evelynn's impact isn't as... It's not... Evelynn doesn't have to be as impactful as I thought she was going to have to be. Pretty clean. So... If we've watched any clips from China, we know that the Fioras get their combos off really cleanly and really quickly. Of course, it's significantly easier when your target's just teleporting. I think any pro should be able to make that kill as fast there, but clean nonetheless, not to feel pressured and make a silly mistake. So Ghost actually lands low commitment initiate here, right? It's when you're running these more reactive comps, it's all about the low commitment initiates, right? You don't have like a Jarvan that just throws himself in, right? It's more about the Ornn ult, it's more about the Aphelios with the Rude ult, right? He's not putting his body in, right? The Thresh Qs to follow up, and all that stuff also follows up each other nicely. So Ghost finds a nice angle, Ornn throws his ult, Thresh throws out a Q, and now they've just broadsword art to them, and Naguri says, okay, now that we have uneven numbers, now I can kind of throw myself in. Really nice dodge on SFM to dodge the Thresh hook there, and now Bin's coming in from the back. Bin, absolute psychopath, I love him with all my heart. He's like, screw this, they've committed way too forward. Naguri, I keep telling you, you shouldn't E forward like that as Ornn when you're playing reactive comps. You don't stop, I'm going for Ghost. On the backline, Canyon tries to get in, but Angel dissuades them with a QE combo that hasn't been casted, of course, this fight, because Suning was not the one initiating. And even though the number disadvantage made it seem like it would go even better for Damwon after landing the first pick, they weren't able to get too much more off because, when Damwon's comp over-initiates, they're just going to feel awkward trying to get in, right? It really has to just be a super juicy scenario. Bin makes it over, and they trade back Canyon for SFM. I could also probably nitpick a little bit how Bin plays this, but it's not a big deal.
He could very well have died at the hands of Bin there. You can see Canyon tried to dive onto the back line as well, and he just didn't quite land the damage, which went as well. And you can see that the goal difference is he's 2 levels above Huanfeng. He has 2 kills.
Baron is still up. Dragon coming up in a minute. If people want to back for a gold item before this dragon, they're going to have to do so very soon or they will be late. Fiora, of course, is going to want to play away from the dragon. And so ideally Lucian would be matching Fiora, but Lucian does not have teleport right now, so it could be a little bit more difficult. Oh wow. So they get a QE combo onto Beryl. Beryl roots himself by throwing a Thresh Q and not landing. He then gets himself out with the Mikhails, and Huanfeng follows up with Jin ult, right? Jin, such a great feeling hero when following up other people's plays, and Sword Art says, screw this, I'm going in. Bin is also just diving in with the back. Fiora, not the most team fightable hero, but it's going to feel more doable when you actually have people setting up for you on front. Now Damwon with the re-engage. Their comp so good reactively, so good on the re-engage. Let's see if they're able to make it happen despite losing one already. Sordar tries to jump in, dying very fast. Bin still going forward here. Oh, he's just going. He gets hooked, unfortunately. Wow, these fights are really interesting. So Fiora's on 3 items right now, so she's actually going to be feeling super tough to deal with.
The fact that they committed to that fight is just crazy. SOFM now trying to zone Canyon and Augury away as Huanfeng looks to solo the Drake. Who else is on the way? Beryl is on the warpath.
SFM wants another dragon for his dragon note. Let's see what they can do. So Jin's not going to feel good, right? Jin doesn't just DPS down Ornn, right? Ornn is like a classical counter to Jin. Jin doesn't want to fight tanky heroes. He doesn't just like play front to back super well. He wants to follow up other people's plays, and right now he's trying to DPS people off this dragon so SFM can get it. And SFM actually ends up winning the smite fight. He tends to do that a lot. Ooh. Huanfeng holds the last shot, dodges the Thresh Q by walking up, flashes forward for Canyon. SFM gets the Triumph proc, flashes the Rammus emote, jumps back in off the brush. Angel's TP at this point. He has his stacks back, so he can W now. The Q lands onto Angel as Beryl barely lives. Actually looks like Angel's super killable now. Has flash, gets out. Then Ghost walks forward to try and finish it, but ends up walking into the layout ult. Yo, I love the way Suning play. I love the way Suning play. These are my favorite players. I love all of them. They're so funny, man. What has Bin doing? Go! That's really clean. Nicely done. I love Bin too. Bin actually has like some of the best mechanics just of like any player in Worlds. I loved watching Bin play Gangplank because like Bin will just like suicide because he's too clean with his barrel combos. He just like he goes mad with power. Yeah, this game wasn't looking good for Suning. I think it was looking really good for Damwon. Now Suning has put themselves in a really good position. Fiora is really great on items. I love their back rune. People just pointing at the screen like, oh, look at him do that.
He'll be rooted in place from a deadly flourish. But look at that, 3-4 members chipping away. Nogri does survive a very long time. Cloud Soul plus Rift plus Thrill of the Hunt.
He is the fast quick shots, and meanwhile Bin is just pushing in the bot lane, level 18. No one can.
So of course, with this style of comp, right? When I was talking about the potential of a Rengar 1-3-1, the conditions where Rengar was ahead, and the other condition, and this was kind of like a condition I didn't say out loud, but it's Rengar has to not build full tank. Since those conditions were not met, it's just going to be a 4-man middle while Fiora split pushes, and everyone that matches her is going to have a lot of issues. And at this point, Suning is feeling really strong. Damwon need to keep their heads in the game though, because Damwon still have a ton of damage coming out of their Aphelios specifically, and the other members are pretty good on their item spikes as well. Another attempted catch onto Beryl. Bin always just pushes up, rotates over. He's like the OG classic style of playing split push. The way that makes me not hate the game. You love to see it. Just that like flame style of playing. Just push up the wave, have your presence be up in the air, right? Like what you're doing with your time when you're not shown on the map, and then make the rotations mid when available. Because even if yours not a good team fighter, at least you're there first, at least you're ahead.
Onto the back line, which means that Suning can just keep walking in. He's not going to take that risk, and Suning, they're going to break the inhibitor. They're looking to take a game off of Damwon. They're looking to give us more games in this series.
Even out the series at 1-1. Now they do need to get to the Nexus. The Baron will time out.
So I did predict a 3-1 for this series. And I'm feeling good about my prediction so far.
This is a tangible,
But honestly, Suning honestly just looked better than Damwon this game. I think Damwon's having issues finding some spots. They're having issues finding some scenarios where I think they're still strong enough, their comp's strong enough, they're not behind enough on gold where like they'd still be able to make things happen. And they're just not able to right now. Suning's just feeling way too confident in the way they're playing in this game. Do I think Damwon's comp is a little too Eve dependent? It would have been if Damwon got smashed in the early game, like Eve got invaded a lot and Damwon weren't able to contest because they didn't draft enough priority lanes, then I would have said yes, but that didn't even end up happening. So I don't think it mattered. I think Eve was on a good item spike and she just wasn't able to make it happen.
We saw a similar sort of path last game, but it was Damwon that kind of maintained control of the objectives, and this time Suning invested more into a stronger bot side of the map, and now they're looking for a fight.
Okay, so it's going to always be really hard for Damwon to engage. Bin has TP'd in, but it's going to be hard for Bin to just walk in to Aphelios Lucian. So once again, like, maybe, I think Damwon maybe, I think they're a little lost on how to play Evelyn. I definitely have some suggestions. I really think Evelyn should just be lurking around. And maybe that's easier said than done because Rengar just scouts her. And maybe Rengar is just like Rengar like tank support is just a highly intelligent counter pick, right? And that's fair as well. But Evelyn's Evelyn's not going to be very helpful playing front to back, right? Evelyn basically wants to just like apply, even if she's not landing kills, apply pressure to Jhin and Syndra while they try and follow up these plays. Because like you'll look at Jhin right now, he's super vulnerable, right? And like there's a good chance they can't, like even if Rengar peels back, Canyon will still just get the kill on time. They're just jumping in. That's a triple kill for Fiora. Give him the penta. Give him the penta. Let him have Ghost. Let him have Ghost. Penta. Penta. No one hit him. No one hit him. Nice. He still had Flash. He killed 4 people and still had Flash. See, Fiora's an all or nothing hero. It's either your Naguri and you go like 0-8-0, or you get a literal pentakill. There's no in between. She's one or the other. Okay, these 2 games have been kind of long, so I think I'm going to split my VOD review up into 2 videos. So this is part 1 of Suning versus Damwon finals. If you want to catch these videos live, you can catch me at Cruza.tv on twitch.com, twitch.tv. If you want to check out my tweets, I sometimes tweet about League of Legends. That's at Cruza.tv. And if you're watching here on YouTube, I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed if you enjoyed the game review. And yeah, there will be a part 2. This has been part 1. Thank you for watching.